The most famous Australian cartoon in the world has got to be Bluey. But hold your horses, because there's something you might not know. The Little Blue Pup show is surrounded by controversy.
Did someone call the police?
Did you know there's a possibility that Bluey is actually a copy of a children's show from the 90s? Back in 1996, yes, ages ago, and maybe you weren't even born yet, Nickelodeon, the same channel that gave us SpongeBob, launched a preschool show aimed at kids aged 3 to 5. As we all know, dogs have always been a hit on TV, and of course, an animation studio wasn't going to miss the chance to create a dog character who was both fun and totally adorable. And from that idea, they came up with the character Blue, for a show called Blue's Clues. This little pup had a very special feature. As her name suggests, she was sky blue, which might remind you of someone we all know very well. Additionally, another shared feature between both shows is that both main characters are not only the same color, but also female. A lot of coincidences, don't you think? But do these similarities really hint that Bluey is a copy of Blue's Clues? That's exactly what we investigated, and we're about to show you what we found. Grab your popcorn and get ready, because it's time for another Cinewave. As we mentioned, both characters are practically the same color. This really suggests that choosing this color for our beloved Australian pup might not have been a coincidence. When we dug deeper, we found out that the color choice in both shows actually had two main reasons. First, it's unusual for a dog character, even in a cartoon. And second, light blue is a color that both boys and girls can easily identify with, meaning neither side would be reluctant to watch the show. Here, Bluey's creators might easily say that it's all just a big coincidence and that blue is simply a universally loved color. Maybe that's part of why we all love our Australian pup show so much, but is that really the whole truth? Another amazing similarity between these two shows is that Blue, the pup from Blue's Clues, didn't go on her adventures alone. She had a loyal friend named Magenta, whose name also happens to be a color, a shade most people would probably just call pink. This Magenta character was always by Blue's side, just like Bandit and Chili's youngest daughter, Bingo. And both Magenta and Bingo seem painted in a color opposite to Blue, Bingo with orange and Magenta with pink. But the similarities don't stop there. All four characters are puppies, and on top of that, the design of each pair, Bluey with Bingo and Blue with Magenta, is strikingly similar. For the Heeler pups, the similarity makes sense since they're sisters, but in Blue's Clues, the two characters look practically identical. Oh, and of course, all four are female pups. This is really starting to look pretty similar. Are we going to realize by the end of today's video that Bluey is just a copy? Now I'm starting to get worried.
This is the worst!
This next similarity is one you've probably noticed for a while, but it's still worth mentioning. The two main characters in each show have names that reflect the color of their fur. And don't go saying that Bluey has a Y at the end, because it makes no difference at all. Everyone knows Bandit and Chili named their daughter based on her color. You might argue that lots of people share the same name. I know a few people with the same name as me. But keep in mind, Nickelodeon's show aired on TV back in September 1996, while Bluey, the Australian cartoon, came out in 2018, more than 20 years later. So Blue's Clues hit screens long before Bluey. With that in mind, it's possible that Joe Brumm, the creator of Bluey, was just a kid back then and could very well have watched the Blue Pup's adventures on Nickelodeon. That's definitely possible. So were those the last similarities between the two shows? I don't think so. But before we go on, you've definitely noticed that colors play a big role in both shows, right? So drop a comment with #color so we can get to know ya! One of the most common details in Bluey is the drawings that Bluey and her sister leave on the walls and fridge. They're a fun part of both pups' personalities and might even be Easter eggs in the show's universe. Would you believe me if I told you that in Blue's Clues, there are also drawings scattered around the house, including on the fridge? Check out this scene from an old episode. Take a look at the fridge drawings just like in Bluey. Quite a coincidence, wouldn't you say? Okay, but now we're done with similarities, right? Not quite. Want to see more proof of a connection between the two shows? The houses in both cartoons are very similar. First, let's look at Bluey Heeler's house in Brisbane, Australia. Here we can see a house with yellow nails and a red triangular roof. There's also a chimney on the side, a cozy, lovely green lawn in front, and even a tree with red fruit growing right next to the house. Now let's see if the old Blue's Clues house looks similar. Here we also have a yellow house, a red triangular roof, and a chimney. Plus other similarities include the green lawn and a tree with red fruit nearby. And now for a surprise. Look at the ball next to the tree. Doesn't it remind you a lot of the Pixar ball? The same one Bluey references in several episodes? This is clearly proof that the creator of Bluey, Joe Brumm, watched episodes of Blue's Clues and that he probably had fond memories of the show when he was younger. We can even agree that it's part of every child's life to have a favorite cartoon. Perhaps as he grew up, he might have remembered that good memory of the Nickelodeon show and found inspiration to create Bluey. If you're still not convinced, I've got another reason for you to start questioning things. Are you ready? The Long Dogs might actually be a huge reference to Blue's Clues. Our sources suggest that the Long Dog is modeled after a Basset Hound, a long-bodied, floppy-eared dog breed. Similarly, Blue from the original show also seems to resemble this breed, which means the Australian show creators might be paying homage to the original material that inspired their hit series. That's a pretty big clue, wouldn't you say? This could be why the Long Dog Easter egg appears so often. And for us to keep showing up for you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notifications. Deal? Let's be real now. Even though there are a few similarities between the two shows, the truth is that Bluey didn't copy anyone. When creating a show or any kind of story, similarities with other works always pop up, but in this case, we don't think Bluey is based on Blue's Clues. And not that the cartoon isn't a good reference, because it is, as it has been on television for over 10 years and now has a current version airing on Nick Jr. with a new host, and it seems that the show has become popular again. So much so that it even brought back the original cast members to return to the project, but even so, it can't be considered a copy. For those who haven't watched that older show, which even has a recent version, the whole format is completely different from the Australian series. To start, Blue's Clues doesn't really have any ongoing storyline. Instead, the show works like this. A real-life host has an animated dog, a little pup named Blue, who doesn't talk, but is full of energy and eager to play. Because Blue can't speak, the show's called Blue's Clues. The premise is that the main character leaves clues around the house and the host tries to figure out what Blue wants to do that day. At this point, it's clear the shows have no actual connection. Let's remember how Bluey, the Australian show, works. The Heeler Pup Show takes place in Brisbane, Australia, in a town where lots of dog families live, and the story follows a continuous sequence of episodes. In other words, each episode has its own narrative, but they're all connected. This means there's a story being told. For instance, we see Frisky and Radley's relationship ending in marriage, or Brandy, who always wanted a child, showing up pregnant later on. Or even Bluey herself, who has feelings for Mackenzie, dreams about him, and eventually we know she ends up having a child, with Mackenzie likely being the dad. Plus, there are no humans in Bluey. The entire show focuses on dogs, and while Nickelodeon's show is meant for preschoolers, kids aged 3 to 5, Bluey is for the whole family, covering mature topics like Bluey's older sibling, or Bingo's process of growing up in that episode about bedtime. Yes, both shows aim to share positive values and messages with kids, but that's a common trait in any show meant for younger audiences. Bluey, in fact, is much more polished than Blue's Clues. Sure, that show is from the 90s, but even the new 2020 version doesn't quite compare. Bluey is just better. The Australian show was made to bring the family together on the couch. Remember when I mentioned that both characters are blue because it's a color that appeals to both boys and girls, so there's no resistance to watching? In Bluey's case, the show touches on adult topics in a gentle way, so older viewers can enjoy the storyline too. Meanwhile, in the original Blue's Clues from 1996, or even in the new 2020 version, adults wouldn't typically stop and watch it. It's actually pretty hard to imagine that happening. But that doesn't mean Blue's Clues is a bad show, not at all. It's designed perfectly for a very young audience and brings fun with its clue-finding theme. Kids who watch it have a blast with the mystery, so there's definitely room to be a fan of both shows. Regardless of the similarities or differences, both Bluey and Blue hold a special place in many childhoods, and there's room for everyone. I can guarantee there's a spot saved for you here with us, and to keep the fun going, we've lined up 2 more videos for you to watch. See you in the next video!